It's fugitive Australian journalist Shane Dowling from the website and YouTube channel Kangaroo Court of Australia. Now, there's a huge corruption scandal that's going to engulf the Victorian state government, which is a Labor Party state government. It's also going to engulf the Labor Party in Queensland, who are in opposition at the moment. And it's going to extend to the federal government, the federal Labor government. It involves billions of dollars being funneled out of government contracts in Victoria and also Queensland into the hands of criminals. And this scandal is just going to get bigger and bigger. And one of the reasons it's going to be a huge scandal is the government tried to cover up the Victorian government's liability in failing to act. And I've just published an article on the issue, and it's titled Anthony Albanese's Fingerprints All Over Labor's $15 billion CFMEU Corruption Cover-Up Attempt. I published that on Sunday the 15th of February 2026. And it starts off, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has his fingerprints all over the $15 billion CFMEU corruption scandal in Victoria that has already spread to Queensland and will likely spread to other states. On Wednesday, the 11th of February 2026, the Sydney Morning Herald reported CFMEU Administrator Mark Irving, who was appointed by the Anthony Albanese federal government, was exposed during the week for removing chapters critical of the Victorian Labor Party in a corruption report that shows $15 billion was extorted from government projects by organised criminals linked to the CFMEU. Victoria has a $100 billion Big Build project, which is a multi-year investment on transport infrastructure with over 180 major road and rail projects. And I quote this from an ABC article on the issue. One of Watson's key claims is that as a result of criminality, the cost of construction on the Victorian projects grew by $15 billion due to corrupt payments linked to the construction union. I go on to say in the article, the CFMEU has a long history of donating millions of dollars to the Labor Party, so there should be an investigation for fraud, theft and money laundering by the Labor Party and the CFMEU, as well as an investigation to where the $15 billion has gone. The fact that Mark Irving tried to cover up criticism of the Victorian Labor government in the report was no surprise to me, nor should be to regular readers of this website, as that is why he was appointed. I published an article in August 2024 titled Barrister Mark Charity Shag Irving, KC, appointed boss of the CFMEU, and Bill Shorten's crime gang charged over $24 million union fraud, and said, Mark Irving, KC, was paid millions of dollars when the HWU was up to their neck in corruption, and the HSU and HWU, which is a health services union, the health workers union, are still up to their necks in corruption. So Mark Irving, KC, is one of the last people you'd want to run the CFMEU. Everyone on all sides of politics had an opportunity to deal with the CFMEU, HSU, HWU after the Royal Commission, but no one did. Now it has come back to bite the Labor Party and union movement less than 12 months out from a federal election. Now that was in 2024 before the 2025 federal election. The picture on screen now is Mark Irving, KC, outside the Trade Union Royal Commission back in 2014, with me, Shane Dowling, in the background holding the iPhone with the Kangaroo Court of Australia logo on my jumper. I'm on the right there. And the reason all the media were chasing him after the Royal Commission that day is because it was exposed that he had had a sexual relationship with Kathy Jackson, who he was cross-examining in the witness stand. And I go on to say in the article, Mark Irving, KC, was appointed by the federal government in August 2024 as CFMEU administrator because of media reports of corruption, and Prime Minister Anthony Albanese had no choice but to act. Otherwise, it would have been a big issue at the 2025 federal election. It raises a question which needs to be investigated. Who in the federal government directed and or approved Mark Irving, KC, to remove the chapters critical of the Victorian Labor government? And what else is Mark Irving, KC, covered up? How the cover-up was exposed? Jeffrey Watson, SC, was employed in July 2024 by the new management at the CFMEU to investigate corruption at the Victorian CFMEU. A month later, in August 2024, the federal government put the CFMEU into administration and appointed Mark Irving, KC, as National Administrator of the CFMEU, which meant Jeffrey Watson, SC, was then reporting to Mark Irving, KC. Jeffrey Watson, SC, completed his CFMEU report in December 2025. The Queensland LNP, which is a Liberal National Party, government set up a Royal Commission into the CFMEU in August 2025, which is still running, and they requested a copy of Jeffrey Watson's report into the CFMEU in Victoria. The Sydney Morning Herald reported on the 11th of February 2026, an Albanese government-appointed official stripped politically explosive sections from a landmark corruption report, removing findings that Victoria's Labor government turned a blind eye to CFMEU graft and organised crime on infrastructure projects, including federally funded sites, at a cost to taxpayers of $15 billion. In an extraordinary development on Tuesday evening, after the Sydney Morning Herald asked CFMEU Administrator Mark Irving KC if he or his administration had whitewashed material damaging to Labor from the report, the senior barrister released the deleted chapters and criticised the corruption expert he hired to write them. Irving's decision to release the deleted material came after Queensland's Commission of Inquiry, the Royal Commission, moved this week to use its powers to discover the removed chapters of the report by anti-corruption expert Geoffrey Watson SC, having been provided a different version of the final report last month. In a two-line statement also sent late on Tuesday, Watson confirmed parts of the report detailing the findings of his 18-month probe into the CFMEU had been removed. I did not suggest the changes. I was directed to make the changes, Watson said. But a spokesperson for Irving said in a statement that the administrator determined to remove the two sections because he was not satisfied they were well-founded or properly tested. Sources said the Queensland Commission may have first twigged that the report it was handed in January was stripped of politically sensitive material because a summary included a dot point headed governmental inaction on the CFMEU, but with no corresponding chapter or explanation. When did Victoria Premier Jacinta Allen know? Victorian Premier Jacinta Allen says she knew nothing about the widespread corruption at the CFMEU and rorting on government projects until it hit the media in 2024. But CFMEU corruption has been in the media for years, including on this website, and we even had a Trade Union Royal Commission from 2014 to 2015, which exposed a lot of the corruption. But Jacinta Allen says she knew nothing until 2024. Key parts that were deleted from the report were, as a guardian of public money, the government had a duty to know. It had a duty to monitor delays and cost blowouts. There is no doubt the government knew about the rising problem, but it is equally clear that the government did nothing about it, the report says. And much of the $15 billion has been poured directly into the hands of criminals and organised crime gangs. And I go on to say in the article, that is why Premier Jacinta Allen says she knew nothing before 2024, because billions were stolen while she did nothing. The Victorian CFMEU corruption/cover-up scandal will be huge leading up to the Victorian election, due in November 2026, if the opposition political parties can prosecute it properly in the media. And then there is the Queensland Royal Commission into the CFMEU, which is due to report by the 31st of July 2026, and that is bound to expose billions more looted by criminals on the Labor Party's watch. The sad part is, if you want to know the full story of what is happening regarding corruption at the Victorian CFMEU, you need to watch the Queensland Royal Commission into the CFMEU, and that in itself needs a Royal Commission. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese appointed National Anti-Corruption Commissioner Paul Brereton to cover up corruption at the NAC, and Albanese also appointed Labor Party boy Mark Irving KC as Administrator of the CFMEU to protect the Labor Party. Now, I'm an independent journalist and I'm 100% crowd-funded from viewers like yourself, and I've been running a campaign to help make sure I can keep on doing the work I do. And I'll read that out to you. 12 weeks ago, I launched a campaign with a simple goal: find 200 new monthly supporters, so I can keep on doing this work as a fully independent journalist, running this website and YouTube channel without corporate backing or paywalls. Since then, 123 wonderful people have stepped up and become monthly supporters. That's huge, thank you. We're now at 77 to go. If you've been enjoying the work and aren't yet a monthly supporter, I'd be incredibly grateful if you'd consider joining them. Here's the situation. Like most independent journalists, I'm basically a one-person small business. Right now, a lot of us are feeling the squeeze, just like many small businesses and the households are. To stay afloat and keep bringing you the reporting I do, I need roughly 200 more people, well 77 now, chipping in whatever they can comfortably afford each month. Anything from $3 to $100 or whatever works for your budget makes a real difference. There's no lock-in and you can cancel or adjust at any time. If that feels doable right now, donations options on the donations page, and there's a link for the donations page below this video on YouTube. Your support, whether it's a monthly donation or one-off donation or just sharing my work, is what helps keep independent voices like this one alive. And please do your bit and help shine a light on corruption and share this video on social media, and please hit the like and subscribe button and notification button. That way you get notified when I publish new videos. Other than that, thank you for your time and have a good day.